Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second episode of, I guess, a coffee chat about life.
Coffee talk, coffee talk. All
Coffee
right,
talk.
what we want to talk about this month? Oh, recap from our last one because we were talking about what to do with a room.
Yes.
Once a kid moves off to college.
Yes.
Guess what we did with the empty room? It's not empty. We had another kid move back in, so sorry, Chloe.
Yeah, no room this year.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So the other thing that we noticed over the summer that we had to deal with was, man, just bad attitudes, just horrible attitudes. Wouldn't you agree?
Grumpy, irritable, not willing to help,
Tired.
very tired.
And literally on my 9-year-old, bags under his eyes.
Yes.
I think
Horrible.
when we come to find out, we had a dopamine addiction problem over the summer that we're still dealing with.
Yes.
And that's what we wanted to talk about on this coffee talk was just, I know we're all dealing with these struggles with our kids and everything else.
Yes.
It's, man, how do we balance a good family life and technology?
Yes, because technology isn't going anywhere, so we need to learn to figure it out.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we did was we just asked the kids to check to see how much time they were spending on their phones,
Yes.
and that blew my mind. Do you remember how much time?
Close to 6 hours a day for some of them.
Yeah, and the two older girls, I mean, they were within like a couple minutes of each other.
Yes.
So that's a full-time job. Well,
It's a part-time job.
it'd be a full-time job for me.
Okay.
That'd be like two full-time jobs. But it brought up a couple of points. So one of the things was, all right, what's the proper age, or if there is a proper age, to let somebody have this technology,
Yes.
right? And then the other questions that we had with it is, what are the things that they're looking at? We got to control that part of it, right?
Yes.
And did we have a third point with that?
Um, did we have a third point?
Did we, or was it just 2 points?
I think it was just the two,
All
what
right.
they're looking at and how much time they're spending.
So the first thing we talked about was just the amount of time. So once they identified that, I think they were shocked as well, don't you?
Yes, and I think the girls actually did try to scale it back because for the next week they were all look, my time is way down. So they monitored themselves a little bit on that. That was nice.
And then, so there's two pieces to it, like when we're looking at the time part of it to me. One part is, okay, it's entertainment, right?
Yes.
So if we're looking at it as entertainment, is it any worse than watching TV for 6 hours straight?
No, actually, it's equivalent. I think.
So
The time
it's
spent.
no worse than TV, right? And I remember as a kid, because I was, MTV generation, so I remember when TV started going all night. You remember that?
Unfortunately, I do.
And I think that generation, my parents, probably their parents, my grandparents, probably felt that TV is going to bring down this whole civilization.
They actually did. I've read a lot about this, and in the 50s, when TVs started being in more households, parents were concerned that the programming on TV in the 1950s was going to corrupt their young children.
So they thought John Wayne was causing issues?
Wagon Train, was it Wagon Train? The Lone Ranger, big problems for our kids.
Wow. What about before that?
Before that was radio programming.
No way.
So in the 30s, when radios became very popular and were in everyone's home, a bunch of moms in New York formed a coalition to get the radio to control the usage because they were worried about what was coming into their kids, I guess their realm there. So what are your kids listening to versus what your parents teach you? So yeah, these outside influences have been a concern for almost 100 years.
So
No, I don't remember the radio.
I like what you said with that, though, because it brought up the other kind of part of it. So one, we can look at it as entertainment, which is fine, but it's also, as parents, we need to control what is influencing our kid if we
Yes.
want to. I mean, we don't have to, we feel that we should probably monitor what's kind of coming in because that does influence the way they behave.
Yeah, I think as parents, it's our duty to um, understand what our kids are listening to and how it affects them and what they're watching and how that's going to affect them versus the morals that we're trying to instill in them as a family.
So, what do you think the average? Did you do any research on the average amount of time people spend or kids spend on the phone?
I didn't do a lot of research on it, but the American Academy of Pediatrics says that no more than 2 hours a day
So, 2 hours a day would be.
is healthy for any child, and kids under 2 shouldn't be on a device at all, which I think most of us, today's parents, are guilty of handing our phone to our kid to watch a YouTube video to calm them down in a restaurant or a store because that dopamine kicks in.
Well, it's become a pacifier. So, that's a good point. So, thinking about that though, so why does it calm them down so much? Why does it work as a pacifier?
Because dopamine is the feel good drug. It's the feel good neurotransmitter your brain produces, like when you run, when you eat food that you really love, when you meet someone that you really love.
Like us now?
Yeah.
No.
Sure. When you watch something that makes you happy. So if you really are into some specific show or some YouTuber and they post a new video, you're all excited to see what they're up to, which is a dopamine addiction.
Oh, absolutely. And the little notifications. Oh, so big news on Facebook. Did that actually happen?
What?
The likes?
Oh, I don't know if it actually happened yet, but Facebook is trying to combat that dopamine addiction a little bit. It's been in the news for the past couple of weeks now. They're going to not make public the number of likes on a post. So you can't go through and see, oh, my friend's post got 500 likes and mine got 2, because they're concerned that people feel bad if they don't get as many likes as other people on their posts, because it's very important to everyone, I think, that posts something on Facebook that people like it. Not just our kids, but even us adults are
Oh,
addicted
absolutely.
to that like and that share.
So that would be the other part of that. So we have entertainment, then we have like the social networking aspect of it.
Yes.
And you touched on that, right? It's like it makes you feel good.
Yes.
How many subscribers do you have? Do you know?
I do. I just checked today.
All right. Does it make you feel good when you get another subscriber on your YouTube channel?
Absolutely.
It does. And
It
there's
does.
nothing wrong with that. But it is a dopamine addiction. And just like anything, so you get it like when you go gambling. Would you take your 7-year-old? Would we take our 7-year-old gambling?
No.
Wait, I don't have a 7-year-old.
No.
Got a 9-year-old. Would
Got
we
a
take the
9-year-old.
9-year-old gambling?
No.
Or the 5-year-old?
No.
Probably not even the 14-year-old.
No. I don't even want to take the 21-year-old. So
See, exactly. So that's a good point with that. We don't. We know it needs to be monitored.
it does need to be monitored. It affects their daily life. It affects their schoolwork. Um, it affects their willingness to do something so simple as read. They don't want to read. Teachers, I'm told by a lot of teachers, they're having trouble with kids not wanting to read because there's so much technology and instant gratification. They don't want to take that time to read a paragraph and comprehend what's going on, or read a book and find out what happens in the end. So it's really taking away from their
My
studies.
bigger concern with this thing is so one, lack of focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at least when we had cable, we had to wait through the commercials to watch our show. And if we just kept like changing the channel, we're annoying everybody else. We couldn't go back to that same show we were watching.
No.
And without missing it. We had to kind of focus at least to watch one channel at a time.
Yeah.
Now they can bounce back and forth infinite amount of time. Yes?
Yes, you can pause things.
And so the
do
greater
whatever.
concern is that it's going to be harder to actually focus on things because there's this concept of multitasking, which may not even be a real thing.
You can't multitask. Multitasking doesn't work. I just heard somebody say on the radio, there's people say they can multitask because they can be on their phone, and there's more texting and driving accidents now than anything. So you really can't multitask.
So then to me, another consequence of that would be just the creativity piece. We need to have downtime just to daydream. I want my kid. I don't mind if my kids aren't doing anything. At least they're maybe thinking about their future, right? They're daydreaming. They're thinking about this or that. When we have when they're on their devices, and I'm just as bad as they are, and I'm working on it. It is an addiction.
Hmm.
When's that time to be creative? Could you just imagine what would happen to society if we lose all creativity?
Oh, it'd be horrible.
It'd be
Technology might come to a standstill too.
horrible. True, it might.
I mean,
I mean,
somebody's advancing this stuff.
absolutely. So the first thing we did was, just like any addiction, identify the problem
Yes.
and admit I have a problem with technology. And
Yes.
getting the kids to admit it, that's a little different because they kind of do need to come to that place on their own. And thankfully, school started up again.
It's made it a little easier.
It has. They're
Well,
they're busy.
they're busy, but yes. So the second thing that we did was a whole weekend without the technology.
Oh yeah.
We did make them not play video games, not be on their phones for the entire weekend, and the bags under our 9-year-old's eyes went away.
His attitude was
His
better.
attitude changed.
Honestly, even the girls too, and they were. What was funny was they were talking to us.
Yes, they engaged with us.
And having
nice.
like normal conversations.
Yeah.
So, and from some of the stuff that we've read, well, mainly you, she did more of the research,
I did the research.
was that doing a little weekend off, like
Yes.
complete tech, that's very good.
Yeah.
And what
It's
they like in the
becoming
benefits.
it's kind of become trendy too. I mean, people are taking these vacations from their devices. There's companies that are giving out awards if you'll go off Facebook or leave your device for a month. So families are doing this just so they can re-engage and reconnect and start being a family again and not just a group of people sitting around the dinner table on their devices.
So that's another thing that we stick to.
Yes,
When
no
we're eating
devices.
dinner together, no devices. I'm trying to push when we're in the car together, no devices, because to me that's a good time for us to talk, but that's not working
difficult.
great yet. But I think little limits. I don't let the kids sleep with their phones anymore because we found that they're getting up in the middle of the night, and I don't think they're doing anything wrong.
No.
I'm maybe naive and I trust my kids, but they're still on it, and it's not good. It's interfering with their sleep cycle,
Yes.
right? And they're getting this dopamine hit at 1 in the morning.
Yes.
It's not good. So they all have to charge their phones. Where are we doing it at? In the kitchen?
They're not in their rooms.
Either in our bedroom or in the kitchen. And we're doing a tech check before they go to bed.
Yes.
Because we have found that little sneaky one of mine. He'd sneak one of the little devices under the mattress. Oh no, I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
And then the next day we see him and his bags are worse than mine.
Yes.
So, good little tips. Identify there's a problem. Let's start monitoring it. Just have everybody, just look at your hours on your phone. You'll be surprised. You really will be. And then if we can't manage it as adult, as parents and watching our kids, there are great apps.
There are a lot of apps
that would help out with that. Like, you got a couple of suggestions?
Well, Apple has their own. The biggest one that I saw was something called Custodial, and it's.
Did you see that? They're doing a puppuccino.
Oh, cute.
That's so cute.
Sidetrack much.
But it's a puppuccino.
Okay.
Go ahead, sorry.
So one of the most highly rated apps was called Custodial, spelled with a Q instead of a C, for monitoring what your kids are watching. So if you are concerned that what your kids are searching is inappropriate, you can check that. You can block certain things. I do believe even you can turn the Wi-Fi off and the data off at certain hours of the day. So if your kid's using their phone as an alarm clock, which our kids like to use that as an excuse even though they have an alarm clock, you can cut off their data. So they have the alarm clock, but they can't be doing these other things. And a lot of cable companies now are doing that as well, where you can control when people can be online.
It is a great idea.
Which is a good help for us, because I think since we watched TV as a babysitter, we don't see the harm in it so much.
No, agreed. So these are great tips, Martha.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys next month on the next Toffee Talk.
Coffee, not
no,
toffee.
We're doing toffee. Can we do toffee maybe?
No toffee, coffee.
You like toffee?
I like toffee, but it's hard to talk.
That would be an odd little broadcast there, wouldn't it?
Yeah, to talk with coffee in your mouth.
All right, we'll do coffee talk and puppuccinos.
I don't have a puppy.
Fine.